What's up, everybody? Today we are back with another review. Today we are talking about Battlefield 6's campaign. We're going to go through our usual cons, so-sos, and pros. But before we do, link down below will be my link to my full playthrough that's over on my single-player channel. Also, Twitch, if you want to watch me play live, I'll be playing the multiplayer at least the next few days before I start mixing it up again. And that'll be live on Twitch, or you want to see me play COD, Apex, when new games come out, that's linked down below. So are all my social medias, and so is my social media, my single player channel, as well as my car, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If any of that interests you, those are all linked down below, along with the playthrough. So let's go ahead and go through it. Starting off with our cons. The best way I could describe this is like lag, and this is a minor thing, but there would be times where, you know, it's not like a cutscene, but it's like a uncontrolled sequence is the way I'll put it, because it doesn't like go to the normal cutscene framing, but it'll be like an animated sequence that you're not controlling. There's a few of those throughout this campaign, and they would like almost freeze for a second, or they would do a couple motions and then sit there for a second and then start going. It was a thing that happened a couple times. I don't know, probably more than a couple, like 3 or 4 times throughout the campaign. It was just something really odd and felt very unpolished there. Another thing here is, and we'll kind of expand on this more in our wrap up when I give my final thoughts on the game, but there was like a direct mission. There's a mission that like directly copied Modern Warfare 2019. The name of the mission, now I'm blanking on what the name of the mission is. It's No Sleep. And a good chunk of it almost directly copies the Clean House mission in Modern Warfare 2019. You're sweeping up an apartment building, and there's stairs, and some of the stairs are blocked, so you got to go through rooms, and then you go through out of the next like room or apartment, and then you can go back up the stairs, and you're fighting bad guys in there, and it's part of the mission's like a direct copy, and then the rest of it's not really, but part of it is, and it just feels uninspired and unoriginal. The next is I have texture and rendering bugs, and this was only on the second to last mission is when I got it, but like stuff was not rendering in, and it wasn't just like stuff in the distance that was rendering as I got closer. I would be like running past stuff that wasn't there, and then it would just pop up and boom, now there's like an oil tank here or something, and it just wasn't rendering in. And then there's a couple times where like they would render out, and there was another time when one of the characters' skin, he's a black guy, but he was like gray with like cracking skin. It was really odd. That was like all on the second to last mission. There was a little bit on the last mission as well, but it was mostly on the second to last mission. And it's just another thing like that, like lag into those animated sequences just felt unpolished. And the final con here is it's just too short. I finished the campaign in about 4 hours and 55 minutes. Just way too short. This was a lot of people's complaints with like Modern Warfare 3's campaign, that it was just incredibly too short. And so, I don't know, it's just, I like campaigns to be no shorter than 6 hours, and then of course when it's just a single player game, no longer than like 20, maybe 30 hours, but anything less than 6 just feels too short. That's something I forgot to put on my cons list, but it's another thing I felt is it just, this is more, I'll talk about this more in the so-sos, but it almost like lacked grip. It just doesn't quite grab you, but we'll talk about that more because I don't think the story was all bad. So that leads us into our so-sos. The first so-so here is we have the voice acting. It was not the worst voice acting I've ever seen in a game. Some of the voice actors were good, some were bad. It was more the minor characters, AI characters, the NPCs that were really bad, but some of the main characters' lines were not delivered well. There's definitely been better voice acting in games. Typically, I think Call of Duty's voice acting is really good. And I hate to always do the Call of Duty comparisons to Battlefield, but that's what everyone's doing nowadays. And it just didn't have the greatest voice acting. The next is the actual AI and NPCs that I mentioned. Sometimes, like, you got to go into a door, but you can't just go open that door. One of your NPC squad mates, one of the main characters, is supposed to open it, and they just like stood there for a second, and then they would go get in position. You're just like standing by the door you're supposed to go through, waiting for them to get in position, and they're just like standing there for a second. There's other times where they were just too slow moving through things, where like you and the other AI squad mates, the NPC squad mates, are all at where you need to be, and then one's moseying, and the one that's moseying is the one that needs to be there to start the next sequence of the mission you're on, and those parts were frustrating. And then there was stuff like when you get downed, just like in multiplayer, someone can come hit you with the defib paddles, one of your squad mates, and they would just like not be in cover for it, even though there was cover right there. They would just sit in the open. And then if you're trying to get revived and your squad mate, if you have one with you, like when you split in missions or all of them die, then you lose your checkpoint. And that was frustrating. And then finally the story. I don't think the story was the worst in the world, right? You know, it, like I mentioned in the cons, there was no real grab to this game, but like the cutscenes were really good. I thought the cutscenes were good and they were good storytelling, but the in-mission storytelling just wasn't very good. And the story was kind of predictable. It wasn't the most predictable game I've ever played, but it was kind of predictable. So when the moments were good, they were good. There was good tension with the music and all of that. And the cutscenes were pretty good, but the story just wasn't quite grabbing enough to move into the pros. I think the main parts of the plot you could have told in a more interesting way. It was very similar to a lot of Call of Duty stories, like campaign stories. There's a good guy and there's bad guys, and you're suspecting of a good guy, or the bad guy's got a connection, or stuff like that. And it's a story that we've had told in Call of Duty a million times. And even in Call of Duty, it doesn't really get old. I mean, Black Ops 6 campaign was amazing, and it had a very Call of Duty story, just like this did. But a lot of the in-mission storytelling felt better. We're here. In-mission, I almost felt like I wasn't much part of the story, and it was really just the cutscenes, and I was just playing between cutscenes. So the story was okay. I've seen a lot of people call it horrible. It wasn't horrible. I've seen people call it bad. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. It was just so-so. But moving on to the pros. These pros are all really going to summed up by this. Just cinematically, it's a beautiful game with great cinematics, great visuals. Really, the gameplay feels like a movie. This all really wraps into the gameplay and the details, what the pros are, because the gameplay itself and the missions is great. But the first pros I have is the graphics. I played on high settings in the footage behind me. Didn't play on ultra, but high settings. The little details like pores on skin when you're up close were good. The environmental details look good. Some of the mountains on like the second to last mission looked a little bit dated, but they're a little bit farther away, so it's not a big deal. All the up-close stuff and the close shots in cutscenes were all very detailed and look very good. I overall thought this game was really good. And then you add into the graphics is the blood splatter that gets on your weapons. If you kill people up close, you'll literally get blood splatter on your guns, and it's just a small detail that you don't really see in games, but is an interesting one and helps with the immersion and realism. And I think that kind of loops into graphics, but it's just an interesting detail I wanted to point out. The next pro I have is very Battlefield. It's the destruction. Of course, destruction is a huge part of the multiplayer. It's a way to kill people. It's a way to shut down areas, right? It's very important. But the destruction being in the campaign is very good too. You play games that have multiplayer modes, and the campaign and the multiplayer modes almost feel like different games. Where in Battlefield, the destruction is also an important part. It helps you shut down turrets, anti-tank turrets, take out snipers, and it can change the way you approach missions, so it can help keep your playthroughs fresh. And I know it's part of the Battlefield identity, but it's still a big pro because it can change the ways you play. And of course, you can do it with different things. You can do it with grenade launchers, you can do it with RPGs. And just being able to integrate that destruction. There's a part where like you can go around a wall, or you can destroy the wall in one of the earlier missions. And it just stuff like that is really fun. And the final part is I like that it's different parts of the world, because in the story, you know, the world order is collapsing, and you're part of NATO defense forces. And of course, if you know about NATO, which you know a lot of us do, it's essentially like the western half of Europe, the US, Canada, and Mexico. I guess Iceland is Europe. And so there is a lot of different parts of the world. And then, of course, we have allies. Like Egypt isn't part of NATO, but, you know, we have a lot of ally ships in NATO with Egypt. And so you get to be in Egypt on a couple missions. You're in Europe, in Tajikistan, in southern Spain on the Rock of Gibraltar. You're in U.S. and Brooklyn. And it's kind of cool. I know that, once again, in comparison to Call of Duty, it's something Call of Duty does, but it's like, I like all the different environments. It helps keep mission to mission feel fresh. When, you know, you're in Egypt, and then you're in New York City, and then you're in Tajikistan. Like, it just was nice, and it gets to also show off the graphic abilities of EA and the studios that worked on Battlefield. And so it's nice to keep the campaign fresh. It's nice to have all the different beautiful graphics. But that's my cons, the so-sos, and the pros of Battlefield 6. Now, a lot of people like IGN gave it a 5. A lot of people are kind of lukewarm on the campaign itself. I would compare my feelings to it to how a lot of people felt about Modern Warfare 3, where like the story was just okay, but the campaign was too short. The gameplay in it is good, but it just needed more. Like, you could have got more in-depth storytelling and a more interesting story by adding a couple hours to the game. Now, if you don't make that extra time more interesting, I think this game gets rated even worse because it's even longer of just kind of okay. So I certainly don't think it was horrible. I don't think it was great. It did feel like I was kind of playing a Call of Duty knockoff game that had some Battlefield elements in it. I know it's hard when you're doing these like military shooters where you're the good guys trying to take down the bad guys. You can only feel so different. But, you know, the comparisons on multiplayer for COD and Battlefield, I'm not really a fan of, because you have Battlefield, which is mostly these big team literally modes on the battlefield, and then you have COD, you got your 6v6 like in a small map, and it's just really not the same type of multiplayer style. I mean, Call of Duty has tried to have those types of modes, which we'll talk more about this in my multiplayer review coming in the next couple of days. Call of Duty's tried and they failed, so I don't really like the comparisons. But when you play the campaign, the comparisons are hard not to have. I mean, you have a mission that a section of it copies a section of a COD mission almost directly. And, you know, you're in this military environment where you're the good guys looking for the bad guys. And COD does it pretty well every year. Modern Warfare 3 is the only campaign that was received lukewarm in the modern Warzone COD era. There's been some other COD campaigns that weren't loved, but no COD campaigns are truly hated, so they've kind of perfected it. And it'd be hard for Battlefield to really take their own spin on it. I mean, Battlefield, you know, everybody in the squad you're playing with has the different Battlefield roles. You have the destruction, but outside of that, it's kind of just Call of Duty knockoff. Which isn't a bad thing. I enjoy Call of Duty campaigns, and I enjoyed this more than I didn't, but like I said, it's just kind of okay. At this point, I'm kind of rambling, because there's just not a lot to say about a short, just okay kind of COD copy campaign, other than the game looked good, and the destruction was fun, and those were really only my pros. I mean, the gameplay overall is good. The guns feel good. The gameplay mission's good. The cinematic parts of the gameplay are good. And the cutscenes are good. But it's just like a knockoff COD campaign. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to rip it like IGN and give it a 5, but I'm not going to do much better. It's about a 6. It's 5 is, I know 5 is right in the middle, but that's starting to get in the bad territory for me personally. I can feel why IGN gave it a 5. I would give it a 6 because of the action and the gameplay of the actual missions is so good. It's just kind of the story itself is lackluster during those moments. So I give it a 6 out of 10. I think if you've never played an FPS campaign in your life, don't start with Battlefield 6. Go play a COD campaign. Those are just usually better. So it's not the best FPS campaign in the world. But if you're buying Battlefield 6 and you like COD campaigns and FPS and military-style campaigns, 100% go play the Battlefield 6 campaign. I wouldn't buy the game for it, and I wouldn't recommend it if you're just trying to get into campaigns. But if you like military-style campaigns or you're already buying Battlefield 6 and you like single-player modes, 100% think it's worth it. It's just not worth it outside of that. So like I said, 6 out of 10. But thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like this type of content. You like COD patch notes and intel drops, or metas, or you like Apex, the equivalent of that for Apex metas, intel, patch notes, etc. Or you like game reviews. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see it first. And let me know down below what you think of the Battlefield 6 campaign, or what you think about my thoughts. But I will see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye. Game is not great.
Weapons. More incoming. Sniper eliminated. Out. Grenade.
I think there's ammo all over.
Sniper eliminated.
Dude, they brought the package over to the wrong house.
Weapons free.
Roger that!
Sending frag. Sniper neutralized.
Evac's coming!
We're not done. Stay focused.
Got a breather, but not much.
Elevated target eliminated. Commence fire.
Negative. Roger that! Helo's on site!
Let's go, Marines. That C4 is still hot.
I need cover. I'm gonna fucking die, you fucks.
We're out of time!
So were they.
We did not plant that many charges.
Holy shit!
Think they'll bill me for those servers?
Keep adding zeros.
Wonder what those servers were hosting.
Good God. Oh, this is some Article 5 shit. What kind of tech advantage is worth that? No, we're missing something.
NATO has to set us loose on this. Find some answers.
If you don't know, Article 5 is referring to the agreement all NATO countries will defend any country that's attacked. So, like, Georgia's in NATO. Maybe? Poland's in NATO. So if Russia goes through Ukraine and starts attacking Poland, everyone in NATO has to defend Poland against Russia.